In this class we're going to look at the relationship between income and the quantity demanded. So to start, here is a normal demand curve. The price per unit on the vertical axis and the quantity per given time period is on the horizontal axis. And the price and quantity are inversely related, which is our behavioral assumption, the assumption that as the price rises we tend to purchase less of the item. Now we're going to talk about the relationship between income and demand, so let's start with this one. With income we've got we've taken this from the wider demand expression, of course, but what we've got here is the quantity demanded per unit of time, the quantity demanded per week or per month or per day or whatever, depends on income. And income is written as Y in economics for no good reason really. It's a custom, it's a tradition in the subject that when we see Y we know it's income. Apparently John Maynard Keynes back in the 1930s wrote income as Y, and it stuck. So whenever we see it, that's the relationship. So the quantity demanded depends on the amount of income. Ceteris paribus. Everything else held constant. So the price of the good, the price of related goods, the population, all of those things are held constant. We're just going to focus on this relationship here. What is the relationship between demand and income? So let's start with that. So we're going to look at the market demand and income, and under income, under this heading, goods may be classified in three ways. There are three types of relationship when we think of income, and think of income and demand, I should say. The first one is a normal good. We can identify what's known as normal goods. It doesn't mean it's normal in any physical sense. It just means it has a particular relationship with income. So the word normal means it's got a particular relationship with income. The demand has a particular relationship with income. The second one is inferior. Again, the word inferior doesn't mean anything bad about the product. It just means it's a particular relationship between the demand for the good and income. And the third one is luxury goods. Again, perhaps not necessarily luxury the way your mind would suggest, just a relationship between income and demand. So we've got three types of relationship between income and demand, and these are called normal, inferior and luxury. Let's start with normal goods. These goods have a positive demand relationship with income. So as income increases, the demand for the good also increases. Now anytime that happens, that's a normal good. That's what I meant earlier. It's nothing to do with the physical attributes of the good. It simply means that as incomes rise, more is demanded. Whereas incomes fall, less is demanded. So that's our relationship with normal goods. An example of a normal good could be that of, let's say, foreign holidays. As incomes increase, the demand for such holidays may also increase. As our incomes increase, we may travel more, we may go to different countries and have holidays abroad because we can afford it, because our incomes have increased. The actual relationship between income and the demand for foreign holidays could look something like that. It's a normal good. As income increases, the demand for foreign holidays increases. So we'd expect a normal demand curve to be that relationship, the relationship between income and foreign holidays. That's a particular type of curve called an Engel curve, which we'll come to later on. These goods, inferior goods, have a negative relationship with demand. As income increases, the demand for the product will fall, and as income decreases, the demand for the product will increase. Nothing to do with, again, the physical attributes of the good, nothing to do with the quality of the good, or it just means it's a relationship between income and the amount sold as income changes. In this case, as incomes increase, less will be sold. So a possible example of this could be cheap holidays. As incomes increase, more expensive holidays will be purchased. So as incomes increase, there will be less cheap holidays sold because we have more money to spend on more expensive holidays. Luxury goods are highly responsive and have a positive relationship with demand, positive relationship with income, I should say. These goods are highly responsive. In other words, if incomes rise by a small proportion, the demand for luxury goods will increase by perhaps even a bigger proportion. So it's a highly responsive market to changes in income. These are the goods that we would cut out first if our incomes fall, cut out the luxuries. But also, if we have some more income, we would treat ourselves. So these are the luxury goods. Now, an increase in income when the good is normal will cause the demand curve to shift to the right. Back to our traditional demand curve. So let's say we have our demand curve here, which is DD, this demand curve here. Now, if income increases and the good is normal, if it increases, then more will be purchased at the same price. So the demand curve has shifted outwards to D1, D1. For normal goods, more will be demanded when income increases. I mentioned earlier this idea of an Engel curve, named after a famous economist. Not the same Engel who was friends with Karl Marx, for those of you who read politics. But again, let's take the ceteris paribus relationship, that the quantity demanded per unit of time depends on the level of income. Now, we could have equally have written this and make it explicit that we have a ceteris paribus relationship. In this case, the quantity demanded depends on income, everything else being constant. So we're ignoring the price of the good, the price of related goods, the government and taxation and subsidies. We're ignoring all of those. As long as there is at least one constant, we've held something constant, at least one item constant, the relationship is ceteris paribus. That's worth stating. So this idea of ceteris paribus applies if we only hold one item constant. In our case, we've held many items constant here. But if you actually just hold one, it's ceteris paribus. And it's worth making it explicit. Okay, let's go on with the Engel curve after that slight digression. Here's an Engel curve for a normal good. This is like the one I drew earlier in the session. As income increases, then the demand for the good increases also. For an inferior good, as income increases, less will be demanded. So that is the relationship between income and the demand for the good. So now we know the relationship between income and demand, and we can classify it under different headings: normal, inferior, and luxury. And we've seen the tools how to use it. We've seen Engel curves, and we know what causes a shift of the demand curve itself. Okay, that concludes this class. So